"Stop her!" the voice thundered through the grand hall, shaking the walls with authority. The alien guards, tall and angular, lunged forward with weapons that hummed like electric snakes. Yet the figure in the center of the room did not flinch. Princess froze mid-step, her multifaceted eyes wide in shock. The human, tall, strong, and very, very ordinary, stood before her, hands empty, chest heaving, and yet radiating a confidence that made the alien warriors hesitate. How is he here?" whispered to herself, a tremor in her voice. Her heart pounded in a way she didn't recognize, something fierce and human-like that made her feel alive and terrified at the same time. The Hall of Stars, normally a place of celebration and ceremonial grandeur, was chaotic. Floating banners shimmered with iridescent light, casting long shadows across polished floors. Delegates from dozens of alien worlds had gathered to witness the princess's arranged wedding. Every species here had stakes in this union, and every one of them had opposed the human presence. Yet there he stood. Commander, a human from a distant star, did not speak. He merely took a slow step forward, eyes fixed on. For a moment, it felt as if the air itself had stopped. The alien queen's mother raised her clawed hand and hissed in anger. "You will not," she began, but her words faltered as the human's gaze held hers. There was a gravity in it, a strange warmth, a challenge no alien had dared present in centuries of rigid hierarchy. His legs refused to move. Her mind screamed at her to run, to hide, but something deeper told her she could not. Not yet. She was drawn to him as if invisible threads tied her very being to his presence. Her arranged, a dignified and terrifying noble from a neighboring star, glared at the human with thinly veiled hatred. "You don't belong here," the alien noble growled, voice vibrating with authority. "Leave, or you will be destroyed." His lips curled into a small, almost gentle smile. "I'm not leaving, not without her." Gasps rippled through the hall. The aliens whispered among themselves, eyes darting nervously. Humans were considered unpredictable, reckless, dangerous. But no one expected one to confront royalty openly, let alone their own guards without any weapon. Felt something shift inside her chest. Fear and exhilaration intertwined. She realized it was not just the human's courage, but something about him, the way he made her feel that words could not capture. She had never experienced this in her ordered, structured life. The human took another step closer. A ripple of energy passed through the room, alien technology humming nervously as if sensing an anomaly in their presence. He was small in number, yet large in influence, and somehow larger than anyone else here, because he was human. "Princess," he said, voice low but firm, "you are not a prize to be given away. You deserve a choice. Will you come with me?" Her breath caught. The hall seemed to shrink around them, all sound dimming except his words. Something ancient in her instincts screamed to obey the ceremony, to obey her mother, to obey tradition. But her heart had begun to rebel. "Mother," tried to speak, but her voice broke. Her mother's eyes blazed with fury, and the assembled dignitaries tensed as if ready to strike at a signal, yet could not turn away from the human standing before her. The noble at her side stepped forward aggressively. "This human is trespassing. He will be executed for this insolence." Shook his head unflinching. "I've crossed galaxies to find her. If you harm me, you harm her, and I will not let that happen." A sudden tension gripped the hall like a physical force. The alien guards raised their weapons, the nobility murmured warnings, and pulse raced so fast she thought her chest might explode. She wanted to scream, to flee, to obey, but her body betrayed her. She could not move. All she could do was stare and hope. Because in that moment, realized something terrifying and wonderful. The human before her had changed everything. Her wedding, her future, the destiny her mother had planned, all of it hung by a fragile thread. And somehow she felt she could trust him, even though the universe itself seemed set against them. A single step, that was all it would take to change her life forever. And she couldn't take it, not yet. The hall held its breath, the human held his, and somewhere deep inside knew the world she had known was about to shatter. The hall remained frozen as if time itself had paused. Eyes never left the human. Commander stood firm, radiating a calm defiance that no alien weapon could shake. The air buzzed with electricity, the kind that only appears when worlds collide, not in battle, but in choices. Smother, the alien queen, slammed her clawed hand on the podium. "Enough!" Her voice echoed like rolling thunder. "This human has no right here, take him." The guards hesitated. They were trained to obey, to act with precision, yet something about's presence, the way he stood without fear, without armor, without a weapon, made even the bravest falter. He was human, yes, fragile in body compared to their sharp claws and armored exoskeletons. But he carried a presence that was larger than the Grand Hall, larger than centuries of tradition. Swallowed hard, "Mother, please," she whispered, almost inaudibly. The queen's eyes narrowed. "Silence, you will obey, this human is." "Stop's voice rang through the hall like a bell. "I'm not here to fight your traditions, I'm here because she deserves freedom. She is not property, she is not a pawn. She is, and she chooses." The words hit her like a thunderbolt. His knees wobbled. Could it really be true? Could someone, anyone, see her as herself, not a symbol, not a princess bound by politics and rules? The arranged, standing beside her, hissed in frustration. "Do you hear yourself? She cannot choose. The union is for the stability of the galaxy. You." "I don't care," burst out, surprising even herself. The sound of her own voice, firm yet trembling, seemed to give her courage. I will not marry because you say so. I choose him." A shocked silence followed. Every alien present froze, jaws dropping. Some muttered in disbelief. A few whispered angrily, but none moved. His eyes softened as he saw her resolve grow. "Then take my hand," he said, holding it out toward her. "We have no time to waste." The princess looked down at his hand. It was human, warm, solid, real. Her fingers itched to reach out, but centuries of obedience chained her mind. She knew that stepping forward would not only defy her mother, but would mark her as a traitor to her entire race. The weight of destiny pressed heavily on her. And yet something in her chest, a wild, untamable part of her, urged her forward. Said softly, reading the hesitation in her eyes, "Whatever you feel, trust it. You are stronger than you know." That moment stretched into eternity. Then, slowly, trembling but undeniable, she lifted her hand. Her fingers brushed against his. The contact was electric, small, human, yet more powerful than any weapon in the room. The guards flinched, some stepping back instinctively. The queen's face twisted with rage. "No," she screamed, claws flashing, but did not move. He simply held her hand, shielding her silently. His heart pounded so hard she feared it would explode. The hall felt smaller, crowded with tension, as if the entire galaxy was watching. She looked into his eyes and saw trust, courage, and something she had never expected, love. Her legs finally obeyed, moving slowly forward. Each step felt like a rebellion against centuries of rules, against every expectation of what a princess should be. She could see whispers of shock and anger ripple through the crowd, but she didn't care. She only cared about the warmth of the human beside her and the possibility of freedom. The arranged lunged, anger etched into every feature, but stepped in front of, standing tall and unyielding. He did not strike, did not draw a weapon. He simply stood, human and resolute, a living wall between her and the fury of tradition. "You underestimate humans," said quietly, almost to himself. "We are fragile, yes, but we are unafraid of impossible odds, and some of us will cross stars for what is right." Swallowed, tears stinging her eyes. Her mother's roar echoed behind them, alien technology buzzed threateningly, and the entire hall braced for conflict. Yet, with holding her hand, she felt a strength she had never known. She had taken the first step, and now there was no turning back. Every heartbeat, every whisper of fear, every trembling breath in the hall reminded her that the universe was vast and cruel. But humans carried something rare, courage that could bend worlds and a hope that could ignite even the coldest hearts. The princess realized with a clarity that cut through generations of expectation. She had chosen. She had chosen him. And that choice would change everything. Chaos erupted in the Hall of Stars. The alien guards, now fully realizing the humans' audacity, moved with terrifying speed. Weapons hummed and snapped with lethal energy, cutting arcs through the shimmering banners. clutched hand tightly, her heart hammering with fear and exhilaration. Every instinct screamed at her to obey, to surrender, but every fiber of her being screamed louder. Run. Stay close to me, ordered, his voice steady despite the hail of alien energy cutting the floor around them. His grip was firm, reassuring. For a fleeting moment, could feel the difference between fear and courage, the human courage that had drawn her from centuries of obedience. The princess's mother's voice cut through the hall, shrill and commanding. Do not let them escape. Fire everything, bring them down. The guards responded instantly. Lasers streaked through the air, slicing pillars and banners, sending sparks into the air. Reacted instinctively, pushing behind a fallen statue as one of the beams scorched the floor where she had just stood. Are you always this reckless? Gasped, her voice trembling. She had always known humans were brave, but seeing it in action, knowing he risked everything for her, it made her heart ache with a strange, powerful emotion. I do what I must, said, his eyes scanning the exits, and I do it for her. For those words cut deeper than any weapon ever could. She had never imagined anyone could fight for her alone, disregarding everything else. The warmth of it, the clarity, made her legs feel stronger, more certain. They sprinted toward a side passage. The alien hall was vast, filled with labyrinthine corridors, each more dangerous than the last. Guards poured in from all directions, but moved like he could predict them, anticipating their strikes. Each step seemed impossible, but the human never faltered. Why are you so fearless? Whispered almost to herself. Gave her a faint smile, eyes never leaving the path ahead. Humans were small, fragile, but we know what matters, and some of us, we won't back down even if the odds are impossible, especially for someone we care about. Her chest tightened. It was impossible to ignore the truth now. She cared, deeply, fully. She had never felt so seen, so understood, and so alive. A sharp sound tore through the corridor, a shriek of energy as an alien guard cut across their path. Reacted instantly, intercepting the weapon with a metallic beam from a discarded device on the floor. Sparks flew. The guard reeled back, stunned. Keep moving, shouted, pulling with him. They turned corner after corner, ducking under swinging mechanical traps and leaping over broken machinery. Each narrow escape made his heart race faster, but the fear was tempered with exhilaration. She was alive, fully alive, in a way she had never known within palace walls. Finally, they reached a large observation window, the stars of the galaxy stretching out beyond them. Paused, scanning the area. There, he said, pointing to a small transport hovering silently just outside. That's our ride. We can't waste time. His breath caught, the distance, the open space. It looked impossible, but she trusted him. She had to. You can do this, whispered, placing a hand over hers. I won't let you fall. The human courage, the calm certainty, it was contagious. Felt a surge of her own resolve. She nodded, gripping his hand. They leaped through the window, the force of the jump throwing them toward the waiting transport. Energy beams cut the space around them, scorching nearby walls. Could feel the heat, the danger, the impossibility of it all. And yet, they moved as one, human and princess, against a galaxy of rules and expectations. The transport doors closed behind them just as the first guards reached the window. Alarms screamed inside the palace, announcing their defiance to the entire system. Inside, the safety of the vessel sank to the floor, trembling. I didn't think I could. You did, said, sitting beside her. His hand brushed against hers again, grounding her. Because you wanted freedom, because you chose. The princess looked out at the stars streaking past them, shimmering like shattered jewels. She realized something profound. Humans were fragile, yes, but their courage, their heart, could move worlds. And now she had a choice, to remain a pawn of destiny or to step into a future of her own making. For the first time in her life, she chose herself. And with by her side, she knew they could face anything. The stars stretched endlessly outside the transport's viewport, a sparkling sea of light that had never felt so vast or so terrifying. Pressed her hand against the cool glass, watching distant worlds blur past, her chest still pounding from the escape. She had never imagined freedom could feel so exhilarating and so fragile. sat beside her, his eyes sharp and calculating as he piloted the ship through the debris fields and patrols of the alien fleet. The controls seemed almost intuitive to him, but every movement carried a tension that made grip the edge of her seat. "They're coming," said, not looking at her. His voice was calm, but the slight quiver betrayed the danger. "The palace forces aren't just going to let you leave. They'll pursue us across light years if they have to." Felt a chill run down her spine. "Then what do we do?" His jaw tightened. "We survive, one step at a time. I've faced worse odds than this, and humans, we don't give up." The simplicity of his words struck her. Humans never gave up. Even in a galaxy that viewed them as weak and chaotic, they had courage that no amount of alien technology could match. She saw it now, clearly, in every controlled movement, every sharp glance he gave the approaching enemy. Alarms blared suddenly. The ship shook violently as an energy beam grazed the hull, Gript's arm instinctively, fear flooding through her. The human barely flinched. He adjusted the controls with a calm precision that made her heart swell. "You see," he said quietly, almost to himself, "even against impossible odds, humans fight." They weaved through asteroid belts, dodged gravitational anomalies, and slid through hidden rifts in space-time. Each maneuver made the pursuing alien vessels sweat, their heavy machinery and predictable tactics no match for human improvisation. Stomach churned as the danger pressed in from every side, but she clung to words, and to him. Why are you doing this?" she asked finally, her voice trembling. "Why risk everything for me? I'm just a princess, a target." His eyes softened, and for the first time saw a hint of vulnerability beneath the human courage that seemed limitless. "Because you're not just a princess. You're a person. And I couldn't live knowing someone could take your choice away. Someone could decide your life for you, not when I can do something to stop it." Her chest ached. No alien had ever spoken to her like that. Her whole life had been rules, duties, and arrangements, yet here was a human willing to cross stars and face armies simply for her freedom. It was impossible, unbelievable, and yet it was happening. Another alert flashed. Multiple ships had broken through the asteroid field, closing in fast. Fingers tightened around her knees. We can't outrun them forever." His grin was sudden, sharp, and strangely comforting. "No, we can't, but humans don't just outrun, we improvise. Watch this." He twisted the ship sharply, diving into a narrow asteroid tunnel barely wider than their craft. Energy beams scorched the tunnel walls behind them, sparks showering into the void. His breath caught as the light and shadows danced wildly around them, the claustrophobic passage making each second feel like an eternity. "Hold on," shouted. The ship shot through the tunnel, scraping past jagged rocks and weaving with impossible precision. The alien pursuers crashed into the walls, one by one, their rigid ships no match for human ingenuity. Couldn't stop laughing, a sharp, exhilarated sound, half from relief, half from the pure joy of being alive and free. When they finally emerged into open space, the stars stretched endlessly before them again, slumped back in her seat, trembling from adrenaline. You really are amazing." Glanced at her, his grin softening. "Humans are amazing when they have to be, and we fight for what matters. That's all any of us can do." The princess realized then that she had been wrong about humans. They weren't fragile. They weren't weak. They were unpredictable, bold, and fearless. And right now, that human commander was more powerful than any army or fleet in the galaxy. Pressed her hand to the glass again, staring at the distant lights of her. Her life as a pawn, as a princess with no choice, was over. She had chosen, and with him she felt for the first time that she could survive anything. But deep in the stars, far behind them, the alien queen's rage burned brighter than any weapon. She would not give up, and knew their journey had only just begun. The stars outside stretched endlessly, serene and cold, as if the galaxy itself was indifferent to the chaos unfolding within a small human ship. Sat hunched in the corner, staring at the floor. Her hands trembled, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of what she had done. She had chosen to flee, to defy her mother, to leave the life she had been groomed for. Noticed her silence, the tension in her shoulders, and quietly eased into the seat beside her. "Hey," he said softly, his voice cutting through the hum of the engines. "Talk to me." She shook her head. I can't stop thinking, did I do the right thing? I left everything behind. My world, my people. What if I made a mistake? Eyes softened. You didn't make a mistake, you made a choice. And that choice was yours, that's what matters. You're not abandoning anyone, you're claiming your own life. That's stronger than anything tradition can demand. She swallowed, the lump in her throat growing. But what if I fail? What if I'm nothing without the rules and the titles? Took her hand gently, his grip grounding her. You're not nothing, you're more than they've ever given you credit for. Humans, we're not the strongest, not the fastest, not the by default, but we fight. We endure, we adapt. And sometimes, just sometimes, we defy the odds and survive. That's what makes us extraordinary. Sai's met his, and for the first time in her life, she felt seen, not as a princess, not as a symbol, not as a pawn of an empire, but as a person. And the human beside her, he believed in her, believed her. A sudden alarm pierced the ship, a high-pitched shriek that made her heart jump. Hands flew over the controls, eyes scanning the sensors. They've found us, he muttered. The Queen's flagship, it's faster than anything I've seen, and it's coming straight for us. Fear clawed its chest. Then we can't outrun it. Shook his head. Not by speed alone, but humans were clever, watch. The ship lurched violently as maneuvered them through a cluster of floating debris, remnants of destroyed planets, broken satellites, and drifting asteroids. Alien fire raked the hull, sparks dancing across the viewport. Held onto the railing for dear life, marveling at the human's calm. He wasn't just brave, he was unshakable, even when the odds seemed impossible. Why are you so fearless? She shouted over the alarms. Glanced at her, a flicker of a grin on his lips. I'm not fearless, I'm stubborn. Humans survive because we refuse to accept defeat, and sometimes because we fight for someone who matters more than ourselves. Her chest tightened. She realized then that it wasn't just survival that made him extraordinary. It was his heart, the courage to act when no one else dared, the unwavering belief in something bigger than himself. A sudden jolt threw them sideways. The flagship's energy beam had grazed the ship, stumbled but caught her instantly. Stay close, he commanded. This next move is dangerous, but we have no choice. He initiated a risky maneuver, a slingshot around a small moon, using its gravity to catapult them far ahead of the pursuing fleet. The ship screamed under the strain, alarms blaring, but it worked. The flagship lagged, struggling to match their trajectory. Slumped in relief, tears streaking her face. I can't believe we made it, she whispered. You made it, corrected gently, because you trusted yourself and because you trusted me. Her mind raced. The galaxy they were fleeing from, the rules she had, the mother she had left behind, all of it seemed impossibly distant now. And yet, in the cramped cockpit with a human at her side, she felt more alive than she ever had in a palace of gold and authority. The journey ahead was still uncertain. The Queen would not stop. Forces beyond imagining were in pursuit, but knew one thing with crystal clarity: as long as she had the human beside her, she could face whatever came next. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy itself would learn that courage, heart, and humanity could defy even the most impossible odds. For the first time felt hope, raw, burning, unstoppable. The silence of space was deceiving. Outside the viewport, stars shimmered like distant diamonds, serene and indifferent. But inside the small human transport, tension throbbed like a heartbeat. Sat tense, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of the control panel. They're close, said, voice steady but sharp. The Queen's flagship has coordinated with the fleet. They've cut off all escape routes. We're going to have to fight our way through. His heart froze. She had imagined fleeing the palace, leaving the golden halls, and finally choosing freedom. But she had never imagined open conflict, open battle against her own mother. The thought made her chest ache, a mix of fear, guilt, and determination. She began, but her voice faltered. He turned toward her, eyes fierce but kind. Don't. We're going to face it together. You have to trust me and yourself. You've come this far, don't stop now. The flagship appeared in their sensors, enormous and menacing, a floating fortress bristling with weapons that could obliterate planets. Swallowed hard. That's my mother's ship. Yes, said quietly. And she's powerful, but humans were persistent. and sometimes persistence is more important than power. Before she could reply, alarms screamed violently. Energy beams lanced across the void, scorching the transport's hull, twisted the ship sharply, narrowly avoiding a direct hit. Sparks rained down inside the cabin and felt herself thrown sideways, catching herself against the wall. "Stay close," shouted, his hands moving over the controls with a grace born of instinct and training. "They underestimate us because we're human. They think we'll panic. They're wrong." His breath caught. Watching him navigate the impossible, she realized that humans had a kind of courage no alien could understand. A courage born not of strength, but of heart. They risked everything because they chose to, not because rules demanded it. The flagship unleashed a volley of drones, each bristling with energy weapons. Fired back with precision, disabling several without hesitation. Reached instinctively, helping when she could, her fear mixing with adrenaline into a fierce determination. "You're amazing," she said between breaths, awe and admiration in her voice. I don't think I could do this." "You're already doing it," he replied, a flicker of a smile crossing his face. "Humans push themselves further than anyone expects. You've already proven that by leaving everything behind and choosing your own life." His chest tightened. She realized that being human, or at least trusting one, meant more than courage in battle. It meant heart, integrity, willpower. And somehow she had learned that from the ordinary human who had become extraordinary in her eyes. The flagship loomed closer, its weapons charged, the hum of destruction vibrating through space, looked at, eyes wide with fear. Can we survive this?" His jaw set firmly. "We have to. Humans survive against impossible odds all the time. It's what we do. And you, princess, you've survived more in a few days than most do in a lifetime." The flagship opened fire. Energy beams streaked across the void, blasting asteroids and space debris into fragments that rained toward them. Hands flew across the controls, twisting, turning, diving, weaving. Held on, feeling the fear and exhilaration burn through her veins. This is insane," she gasped. "Maybe," admitted, "but humans thrive in the insane. We adapt, we fight, and we never give up." The ship shook violently as another strike hit its hull. Sparks flew, pressed herself against, her fear and trust merging into something stronger than either emotion alone. She realized then that she didn't just want to survive. She wanted to fight alongside him, to live, to choose, and to protect this fleeting freedom they had carved from a galaxy that tried to control her. Glanced at her, his eyes locking onto hers. "Whatever happens, we face it together. That's human courage, that's human heart." And in that instant, felt it deep in her soul, a bond that transcended worlds, species, and fear itself. She was no longer just a princess, no longer just a symbol. She was alive, human in heart if not in blood, and she would not back down. The flagship's weapons powered up for a devastating strike. Sparks flew, engines screamed, and somewhere deep in the void, a human determination burned brighter than any star. The battle for freedom had only begun. The void of space roared around them. The alien flagship loomed like a predator, its energy cannons primed to obliterate the small human transport. Sparks and fragments from destroyed asteroids drifted past, reflecting in its wide, unblinking eyes. Her hands were clammy, her heart raced, but for the first time, fear was tempered with something stronger: resolve. Gripped the controls, his knuckles white. "We can't outrun them forever, but humans don't just run, we fight smarter, we adapt, we endure." The princess watched him, amazed. Here was a human, fragile, ordinary in appearance, facing impossible odds with a calm certainty that made even the Queen's flagship seem flawed. The truth hit her like a meteor. Humans weren't just survivors. They were defiant, audacious, and extraordinary in ways the galaxy refused to measure. The flagship fired, energy beams slicing across space, twisted the ship, weaving between blasts and debris, felt the impact of a near miss, her stomach lurching. "We're not going to make it," she shouted, terror breaking through her courage. "Yes, we are," he shouted back, voice unwavering, "because humans don't accept impossible as the final answer." He adjusted the ship's thrusters and initiated a risky maneuver. a slingshot around a nearby dying star, using its gravitational pull to catapult them beyond the flagship's reach. Felt her chest tighten as the ship accelerated, heat from the star's corona brushing the hull. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, and the void itself seemed to vibrate with their audacity. "Hold on," yelled, and the ship lurched violently, clutched him instinctively, her fear mixing with exhilaration. She had never felt so alive, so fiercely connected to someone, to something greater than herself. When they finally emerged on the far side, the flagship had been left behind, damaged and struggling to follow. The stars stretched wide and empty, silent witnesses to the small human victory. Sank into her seat, trembling, tears streaming down her cheeks. We did it. We survived." Reached over and gently brushed a tear from her cheek. "No, princess, you did it. I just showed you the way humans face the impossible. You chose, you fought. You refused to be a pawn." She looked at him, her chest swelling with emotion she couldn't fully name. I've never met anyone like you. You're extraordinary." "And so are you," he said quietly. "You chose freedom. You chose yourself. That makes you more powerful than any throne, any empire, any queen." The truth settled over her like sunlight breaking through clouds. She was no longer bound by her mother's expectations, the wedding, or centuries of tradition. She had made a choice, and in doing so, she had discovered her own strength. Rose, her hands trembling, and looked out at the endless stars. "Then, what now?" she asked softly. "Now," smiled, the corner of his mouth lifting in a way that made her heart skip. "Now we live, we explore, we fight for what's right, and we remind the galaxy that humans, we never give up, and sometimes our courage is contagious." For the first time, laughed, a rich, unrestrained sound that echoed through the cockpit. It was relief, joy, and triumph all in one. She turned to, feeling the full weight of gratitude, admiration, and something deeper stir within her. "I trust you," she whispered. "And I'll never let you down," he replied, his voice steady, unwavering. "Not now, not ever." The small transport drifted further into the stars, leaving the palace, the queen, and the expectations of centuries behind. Each star they passed was a promise, a reminder that freedom and courage could defy even the most impossible odds. For the journey was not just escape, it was awakening. She had seen the power of a human heart, the strength in defiance, the courage that could bend worlds. And she knew with unshakable certainty that as long as humans existed, hope and bravery would never die. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, vast, untamed, and full of possibility, and were small, ordinary by all appearances, but together they were unstoppable. And in that moment realized the most important truth of all: freedom wasn't given, it was taken, and courage could change everything. The stars waited, silent and infinite, as the human and the princess sailed toward a future of their own making.